Welcome you to today's commission meeting. Present today are Commissioner Gibson and myself, Commissioner Harvey. Commissioner Ebert is excused for the time being. We'll start today instead of an invocation because we were away as a Board of Commissioners at the National Board of Health last week, Tuesday. It's still heavy on our minds about the incident that rocked many lives a couple of weeks ago here in Ogden with that tragic plane crash. And so, especially remembering both the Clarks and the Huffacres, we'd like to have a moment of silence. Thank you. Our Pledge of Allegiance this morning will be given by Fatima Fernelius, and then I will take care of the thought of the day. Ms. Fernelius.
Please rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
While back in Cleveland, we had a great privilege to go to Canton and walk through the NFL Hall of Fame. And while back there was a particular thought on the wall that struck me that I thought was absolutely incredible. I'd like to share that with you. In fact, I don't need to look it up. But short, I committed it to memory. But the thought is, success is not owned. It is leased. And rent is due every day. I'm glad you got that, Kathy. Thank you. That's okay. Just to commit that, rent is due every day for success. And so, thank you. We'll move on to our consent items. Request for approval of warrants 1157 to 1162 and 419,355 to 419640 in the amount of $1,325,034.89. Request of approval of purchase orders in the amount of $138,279.73. Request for approval of minutes for the meeting held on August the 1st, 2017. Request from the Weber County Fleet Department for approval to surplus a 2001 Elgin JO407D sweeper truck and a 1973 Ford paint striper. That is striper. Let the record show that is striper, despite on how that reads. Thank you. Number 5, request for approval to defer taxes on parcel 04-061-0033 in accordance with State Code 59-2-1347. Request for approval of Weber County Human Resources Policy 4-200-leave practices. And item number 7, request for approval of Weber County Human Resources Policy 4-100 Family and Medical Leave Act, or FMLA. Any questions, Commissioner Gibson?
Nope. I'll make a motion that we approve the consent items.
And I'll second after Ricky. Thank you, Mr. Hatch.
Can't believe we're surplusing a paint striper. How old is it? It's only 44 years.
You should, if there were a picture available to the public.
Pretty funny, actually.
On this paint striper, it was actually a van that had been repurposed. So picture a box van that had been repurposed for a paint striper. It was the convertible model. So if you picture a barnstormer with the leather glasses and goggles. That's about how they had to drive her down the road. So it's ready.
Kind of reminds me of the Beverly Hillbillies vehicle, just kind of put together and anyway.
Our guys, for the safety and liability of our guys, it's a good thing. Ricky, go ahead.
Good. Okay, we had 19 purchase orders this week for $138,000. 54% of that, or $74,000, was for the library, and that was hardware and software, almost exclusively. 19%, or $26,000, was our health department, and that was for a vehicle. And 16%, or $22,000, was for our paramedics, and that was for a vehicle remount. For checks, we issued 292 checks this week for $1.3 million. 40% of that amount, or $531,000, was for transportation projects, and mostly that was on 3500 West Road project. 13%, or $169,000, was for dispatch, and that was to purchase furniture for their new location. 7%, or $89,000, was for the library, and that was for books, materials, software, and software maintenance.
Thank you, Mr. Hatch. Having Mr. Hatch's report, are there any other questions?
Nope.
Then we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you. We'll move now on to our action items. This is a discussion and/or action on a release of covenant by and among Weber County, Roy City, and the Roy City Redevelopment Agency. Mr. Barron.
So back in 2014, the county entered into an agreement with Roy City and the Roy City Development Agency. And part of that contract, the county agreed to remove a reversion on the North Park property that would prevent Roy from using that property for anything other than a park. And Roy agreed to transfer that reversion to an amended park property, which is going to be directly west of that North Park property. Roy contacted us about a month ago, said they're ready to move forward with that. They have prepared this release of covenant document that would remove the reversion from the North Park property, and they have also prepared another document that their city council will pass and approve that will grant a reversion or a restriction to the county on that amended park property. Any other questions?
Mr. Barron, I publicly want to thank you for your work on this. I know that you've gone to extensive length because of the negotiation practices of the other people on the contract. I appreciate what you've done. Thank you. And so I'm aware of this, and it's the right thing for us to do, is my opinion. Any comment?
No comments.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved that we approve the contract.
And I'll second that motion. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes. Thank you. We'll off to item 2 under action items. Discussion or action on the proposed Weber County Resource Management Plan. Charlie Ewert.
And Commissioner, if anything Charlie wants to say, I'm fine with. But after the public hearing last week, I asked if we could hold this for a week while I asked a few questions. I did so immediately after our meeting last week, and I just wanted you to know that I'm comfortable with where we are on the plan. And so anything you want to add, feel free. But
I just wanted to
I don't have any more.
briefly show you guys
Thank
the minor modifications that we discussed in last time's meeting. In front of you guys is the full and complete plan with the resolution attached to it, and I've tabbed off the pages that are changing. And I just wanted to make sure that you were able to digest those and be comfortable with the changes. We're primarily talking about public land survey and making sure that we've got a plan in place for making sure we get those section corners installed out there in the western side of the county. So you got one tab on page 15, and I highlighted that paragraph, and then one tab on page 30, highlighted 2 paragraphs. Those are the only changes from last week's packet.
And those were those were things that you brought up in last week's meeting
Right.
as part of the discussion.
Right.
And as a point of privilege, Devin Anderson, does this meet with your, what we talked about months ago? This is now coming to fruition, those things that you've been working on for months that now being put into this resolution. Thank you for your work on this. It's awesome, and it will actually set a trend, I believe, throughout the state and probably lead other states around us. That is fantastic work. And I realize, and I'm going to bring this up, and most of you know that I'm not conventional, so it really doesn't matter. but this is a revolutionary process as it relates to surveying. We are leading out again in Weber County things that are the right things to do as it goes to survey markers. And so why it might not be a big splash as far as a lot of people know, everyone will realize this because it all points back to where property lines are as it has to do with monuments and markers. And so it helps better establish where our boundaries are. So it really is fantastic. Devin, a lot of work and history in this, and thank you so much again for your work. Charlie, also partnering as a team to make it happen.
Happy
Thank
to
you.
help. Any other questions for me?
None from me, and Commissioner Gibson, any?
No, just a comment that, as I said last week, from a larger perspective, a more macro perspective, I think it's a good thing that the legislature mandated this. One of the few times when they actually mandated that counties exert their authority and talk about what things they, exert their influence on federal land management policies, and then actually put some money forward so that it's not an unfunded mandate. So I think this is just a really positive step going forward. I hope that it trains us as a county and other counties throughout the state, as they all do this, to take a more active role instead of just waiting to see what the federal government may do in a certain area. So as time goes on and we have more and more interface with the federal government, I think it's important that we let our voice be known as that voice of representation that is truly closest to the people in our community. So anyway, with that, I think it's a positive step. I'd move approval of the Western Weber County Resource Management Plan.
Resolution 31.
We have a motion for Resolution 31 by Commissioner Gibson. I'll second that motion. Roll call vote. Fatima?
Aye.
Aye. The motion passes, or the resolution passes. Thank you. We'll be off to item number 3 on the action items. Request for approval of a resolution of the County Commission of Weber County appointing members to the Taylor West Weber Cemetery Board. Stacy Skeen.
Good morning. I'm here to request approval of a resolution to appoint to the West Weber Taylor Cemetery District. We've had a board member resign, and the posting was, it was posted according to state statute, and we received one application to replace the resigning board member.
Any discussion on that?
No, I heard we had one more come in, and it was determined that they did not live in the district.
Correct.
So that makes our choice kind of easy, but I do know Mr. Hancock. He's a good man. I think he'll, I'm always grateful when someone steps up with a willingness to serve in a volunteer position, and I recommend that we approve this application. I'll do so in the form of a motion.
Having received that motion, I'll second, by Commissioner Gibson, I'll second that motion. Any other discussion?
It's a resolution 32.
Great. Resolution 32. Fatima?
Aye.
Aye. The resolution carries. Thank you, Ms. Skeen. Item 4 of our action items is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Meridian Engineering for surveying and design services on 3300 South. Our presenter this morning, Jared Anderson. Mr. Anderson.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You have here before you, it's taken a little bit of time, but for survey and design services for right-of-way only. This is through WACOG, Corridor Preservation Funds. We went through the procurement process and had a request for proposals. Had 4 very qualified firms submit. Then we had interviews with them, and Meridian rose to the top. They've done multiple projects for WACOG with right-of-way acquisition. So we're excited. We actually have not done work with Meridian Engineering before, so we're excited to get them on board and get them going on right-of-way acquisition for 3300 South.
Terrific. Any, Commissioner Gibson, and as much as this is in your portfolio, any comment on that?
Nope. I think it's within the boundaries. It's been. I think that there was a good solid process that was followed on this bid proposal. And I think it's a good result here. So I'd make a motion that we approve the contract between Weber County and Meridian Engineering.
Received a motion for approval of the contract for item number 4 between Weber County and Meridian Engineering, and I'll second that motion. Any other question?
No.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Call for a vote. Aye. The motion carries. Thank you, Jared. Item number 5 on our contract is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and AAA Excavation to install a sewer line for the future RV park at the Golden Spike Event Center. On your agenda, it says Fairgrounds. Jared Anderson.
Apologize for that.
No,
Glad
it's
we
fine.
made that change.
That's just,
this-
it's a 24-year-old thing that we continue to.
This is a very exciting project. This has actually been on the docket, I believe, Commissioner, when you were at the Golden Spike Arena. So it's been years in coming, and a lot of work and a lot of funding mechanism opportunities, and looking at different ways we can get this to happen. It's I can't remember the exact number of spaces, but I want to say 50, but 40. So
54.
54, thank you. So multiple spaces for RV parks. This will bring in the ability for them to connect straight to sewer and power. We're going to have all the pedestals there and up and going. So we were excited to put this out to bid. It took some time to get to where we needed to, but we got it out to bid. AAA Excavation was the low. We've also determined we're going to hire a construction manager to manage the work out there for the slow bidder, but we're excited. He's already had a notice to proceed, so he started preliminary looking at what he needs to do out there and get things installed out there. So we're excited for that. He is working around our Golden Spike Arena schedule. We've sat down with him and said, here's the days where you won't be able to work. And he's good with that. Those are all on contract. So we're just excited to have them on board and get a sewer line in there and up to the RV park.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Gibson, any questions or comments?
No. Well, yeah, just that there was quite a differential in these particular bids, and I just think it's important that we, in that particular case, when it's that much different, that we're very diligent, to make sure that we keep change orders to a minimum, just because I think that we don't want to create a habit or a situation where people underbid and then hit us with change orders, and it ends up costing us more money in the end, or as much money in the end. So I hope you'll pass that along to the consultant and try and keep those under control in this particular case. I think it's, when you see that much difference, it always makes me worry a little bit.
Yes, we agree.
Okay? Thanks.
And I want, just for the record, as it relates to the property lease at the fairgrounds or the Golden Spike Event Center, I want to make certain that people know that this is some additional property that Ogden City, between Ogden City and Weber County, were able to work out in conjunction with the existing lease to be able to make certain that we could use or actually do some capital improvements on that piece of property for this purpose. So this has been something that's been in the works for a number of years, but we do hold a revised lease for that property that the RV park's going on to, and we're making this improvement to the fairgrounds because we know the fairgrounds will be there for quite some time, and people will be able to enjoy it for years to come, including RV services. 25 years ago or 24 years ago, when I first went out there were only steel trailers, and trucks only had a door up front. There wasn't such a thing as a four-door truck unless it was custom built. Now most trucks on the road are four-door trucks, and most trailers are aluminum, and they usually have living quarters up front. So the way we do horse business has changed in the last 2 decades, and so this will just accommodate our existing customers and help attract new customers, which will bring even more economic vitality to Weber County. Those were a lot of big syllable words, Kathy, I had to throw in there all together. I hope you got that part. I don't think I can recreate that part. Okay, so with that, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
It's been moved that we approve the contract between Weber County and AAA Excavation for a sewer line at the RV Park and Fairgrounds. I'll second that motion. Any other question? Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Item number 6, request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Aerographics Geospatial Services for photogrammetric mapping services. Did I say that right?
I'm actually not sure you said that right, but it sounds really good. It sounded like you did. So
Well,
sounds
thanks for my recent Hooked on Phonics classes. 2550 South and 3300 South, or 2550 South and also 3300 South. Mr. Anderson.
Commissioner, we might have to keep those words out next time to help out, but this is also an exciting project, both projects that we have for the right-of-way acquisition, but part of doing the survey work includes aerial photography, and aerographics been around for years, so went through the procurement process with them also, but we're going to be able to save a bit of money by having them do the aerial photography for both 2550 South and 3300 South. Even though both those have different firms working on them, we're going to be able to save money by having the aerographics do both. So this is an exciting contract.
Thank you very much. Any comment? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve these contracts.
I'll second that motion. Any other question? Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Anderson. Ms. Stewart, a request for approval of a local transportation funding agreement by and between Weber County and Pleasant View City for the Skyline Drive 350 West and to 500 West project.
Correct.
Brooke Stewart, thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Today we're bringing before you for your consideration a local transportation funding agreement with Pleasant View City for Phase 2 of the 350 West, 500 West Skyline Drive project. This portion of the project seeks to expand on Phase 1 and also construct the intersections of 350 West and 500 West. The Transportation Subcommittee made a recommendation to fund this project to WACOG in November, and WACOG made the following recommendation of $182,638 in corridor preservation funds for right-of-way acquisition and $375,417 in sales tax funds for the construction. This request was also included in the 2016 Local Transportation Funds priority list that was approved by the Commission in December. So with that, we're asking for your approval, and I'd be happy to answer any specific questions you have concerning the project.
Thank you. So the COG has put forth over 500, so about $550,000 plus towards these projects.
Towards this one, yes.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Gibson?
Again, I think this is a good project. It's been through a good process, and appreciate the work of our Economic Development Department as well as the work that they do in transportation. I think this is a good partnership, and I make a motion that we approve.
Having received that motion from Commissioner Gibson, I'll second that motion. Call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, Ms.
Thanks.
Stewart. Our next item number 8 on our agenda is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Kristen Hadid LLC for services of keynote speaker at the Northern Utah Workforce Development, or the NUWDA event. Douglas Larson. Welcome, Mr. Larson.
Commissioners, good morning. Thank you so much. So our Northern Utah Workforce Development Alliance, we're a partnership of economic and workforce development professionals that span from Cache County, Box Elder, Weber County, Davis County, and now Morgan County. We've been working together for a number of years to help our industry partners develop talent solutions, workforce solutions. We used to, on a quarterly basis, go out and visit businesses and talk about creative and unique things related to workforce. And we decided last year to change our structure, and we would do an annual workforce-related event. So this event, our first annual event on October 4th of this year, is a talent symposium that we've titled Do You Speak Millennial? You're certainly very aware of that demographic, primarily 18 to 34, and they're the largest workforce population in front of us right now. And it's unique and creative, and there are certain challenges, but certainly even more opportunities and significant value. And so this event, we're hiring Christine. She is what I'll label as a millennial expert. She started her own company when she was in college, a company called Student Made that only hires college students. She's been tremendously successful. She has master's students that for some reason don't want to quit cleaning toilets, but they have to because they have to pursue their education. So she's been tremendously successful. She'll be our keynote speaker. She'll also be moderating our panel. We'll be hosting this event again on October 4th at Perry's Egyptian Theater in the Ogden Eccles Conference Center. We'll start out with an engagement breakfast in the morning, move into our keynote speech. We'll be polling the audience through a software application to help engage the panel discussion. After the keynote event, we'll move into our panel discussion. We're lining up our panelists currently. We're also set to finalize our primary sponsors this week, and so we're moving this event forward. The save the dates will go out within the next couple of days. The event is live on Eventbrite. This contract in front of you is for $10,000 upon their signature. Typically, our process requires that the vendor sign first, and then we sign. We did this intentionally this time. I hope it's okay with your process. We wanted us to sign first. We'll finalize our premier sponsors, send the contract to them, they'll sign. We'll then be invoiced for a $5,000 deposit, and then we pay the remaining $5,000 on this $10,000 contract 2 weeks prior to the event. We're also so responsible to cover travel and lodging expenses. We'll get lodging taken care of here, and travel expenses will be at a minimum. We've got about a $20,000 budget for this event, and we're certainly on track with revenue from ticket sales that we're anticipating. We're getting sponsors to cover breakfast and other related expenditures. So we're super excited about this. We're budgeting this in a conservative manner where we're estimating low revenues and high expenditures, but I fully expect that we're going to fill the Egyptian Theater. We are engaging the DCO group. The County Commission smartly hired a marketing firm recently to help us promote this event, and they're super excited about that. So Sasha will be fully engaged in helping us market the event as well. So with that, if you don't have any questions, we'd certainly appreciate your approval of this contract.
For clarification for my
Please.
Benefit, it will be held inside the Perry's Egyptian Theater as opposed to the Ogden Eccles Conference Center.
Correct. Our what we're calling the Engage and Connect breakfast will be in the conference center. The rest of the event will be in the Egyptian
And then
Theater.
they'll move over into the theater. That'll be beautiful.
Yes.
That'll be great. I don't have any other questions, and I appreciate this moving forward. Commissioner?
I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be a great opportunity, a great event. Although I don't really need it because my kids have taught me how to type LOL and IDK and some things like that. So I speak millennial already, but I'm still excited for the conference. So
Let the record show that I'm biting down hard on my lower lip.
There's an acronym for that.
Holy cow. With
EML, bite my lip.
That's super. So, yeah, if there's no other question, I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the contract.
And with that motion, by Commissioner Gibson, I'll second that motion. Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Larson.
Thank you for your support.
Item number 9, request for approval of an interlocal agreement by and between Weber County and Salt Lake County for inmate housing. This is a rather new and came up rather quickly. Our presenter today is Kevin Burton. Mr. Burton, thank you for being here.
you, commissioners. Normally, it's my normal inclination to stay out of the spotlight, so
If you could kind of take the camera and focus in just a little closer.
you know, it is obviously a great opportunity to present this to you. I know Mr. Barron has looked at the contract, but I hope it's helpful then to give you a little background about how we got here. Salt Lake County has a couple of issues, so there's a twofold issue here. They have been overcrowded for a number of years, and they've been unable to accept arrests and house misdemeanor inmates. And so what happens when a misdemeanor is dragged by any agency into the Salt Lake County jails? They are booked and really beat the arresting officer back out the door. And so they've experienced this now for a number of years. A couple of months ago, the legislature appropriated some funding that was going to allow them to renovate the Oxbow facility to gain an increase of about 300 beds over there. They also allowed some funding for their facility to contract some of their current inmates out with other facilities. We initially participated in a meeting with them and had an agreement that we would perhaps be able to help do that. In the meantime, though, our account kind of exploded, and a couple of months ago I told her, look, we're just not able to help you out at this point. We remain ready to in the future if our account gets to the point where we're able to help. So fast forward now to this point, and you're all aware that Salt Lake County is dealing with some issues in the Rio Grande area down there. And so as of Friday, there was kind of an emergency meeting held. This was last Friday. The sheriff was invited but was out of town, so I attended, and happy to do so. Present at that meeting were our insurance mutual, Adam Troop from our insurance mutual, the district attorney from Salt Lake County, Tim Gill, representative from Mayor Biskupski's office, the director of corrections, Roland Cook for the state. So a lot of horsepower in the room, and several sheriffs. Their task was, and this was subsequent to a number of meetings they'd already held, dealing with this, how they're going to deal with the Rio Grande area. So basically what they've got is a law enforcement operation ready to go. They want to pull the trigger on this, but they know if there's nowhere to put these people that are arrested as they try and clean up this area, that it's a useless effort. And so, trying to synopsize this for you, but so Director of Corrections from his boss, Lieutenant Governor, was given direction. They need 300 beds. They want 300 beds. Sim Gill's saying 100% arrest, 100% prosecution, but I got to have a place to put them. And so, given that direction, we all sat down there and met and decided that if the jails can help come up with this 300 beds, that will certainly help them achieve this goal of cleaning up that area. So you might wonder how Director of Corrections would have an impact and be able to direct what's going on in jails. Well, as it turns out, we house state inmates under contract for the Department of Corrections. And so the state, not being dummies, they realize that if I'm saying I'm full, it may be because I'm housing contract inmates for the Department of Corrections. So the director is basically saying, if I need to, I will take your current contract state inmates out of your facility to make room so that you're able to contract with Salt Lake County. So that's kind of how this works. We are currently in a unique position in that internally we're making some changes that are going to help us in our female population, which has really been overcrowded for a number of months now. That's going on as we speak. So coincidentally, I now have room for additional female inmates that will allow us to help with Salt Lake County's problem, and then hopefully not have to have the Director of Corrections take out current contract inmates for us. So that's currently our plan. We do plan on taking, we hope will be a female population from Salt Lake County. We've committed to an amount of about 40 inmates. There is no current guarantee, however, that the state, if they can't find that 300 beds amongst the jails along the Wasatch Front here, that they may still come and take a number of state inmates out, so that we would also be able to take a number of male inmates from Salt Lake County. So that's kind of the history and the background of why we're here. Initially, we hadn't intended to execute this contract. It's been sitting on my desktop forever, but since Friday then, we've kind of needed to rush this contract through some kind of an approval process. So Brian Barron was happy to look at it Friday, did so for us. Shell accepted it to be on the agenda in a real quick fashion. So here we are. If there are any particular specific terms of the contract that you're interested in, I would probably defer to Brian in this case. but it's standard stuff. We contract with inmates all the time. It's nothing new for us. Happy to do it if we've got room. So that's where we're at, gentlemen. Question?
I appreciate a 27-year veteran with all of that experience putting together something that will partner with other places and help the problem. I think it'll pay dividends on a byproduct, as a form of a byproduct. And Mr. Burton, I genuinely appreciate your work and your willingness to help and serve.
Certainly. I certainly
Thank you so
appreciate it.
much.
I give all credit, I don't mean to interrupt, I give all credit to the over 200 great corrections professionals that I have working for us, so absolutely.
Appreciate your
appreciate
leadership. Thank you.
Great group of people.
Commissioner Gibson,
I'll make a motion that we approve the interlocal agreement between Weber County and Salt Lake County.
thank you for that motion, and I will second that motion, Commissioner Gibson. If there's no more question, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Commissioner.
Burton. Unless there's any other items for discussion, we'll move to the public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the public meeting, convene a public hearing.
I'll second that motion, a motion by Commissioner Gibson, seconded by me. Those in favor? Aye. We're now in a public hearing. Request for a motion to, or public hearing on proposed APA, which is the Agricultural Protection Area, by Carmen Sinoni. Presenter Fatima Fernelius.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
The county received 3 proposals for agricultural protection areas, and we're going to handle the first one today. These are out in western Weber County. And APAs fall under the state code. State code supports agriculture, and so does Weber County. APAs don't change much, but they allow or protect the applicants, the successful applicants, to continue their agricultural activities. So specifically when there is all this development going around, subdivisions going up around these parcels, and then so that the new residents can't complain about, say, the hay dust or smell of animals or whatever. And to give constructive notice of the APAs, state calls for filing a document with the recorder's office, with the planning commission, and with the Commissioner of Agriculture within 10 days of approval. And I will also send notice to the Sheriff's Office in the event that they're called and they have the document to show that they can continue their activities. Notices for this APA were published in the Standard Examiner, posted in 5 public areas within the proposed area, mailed to property owners within 1,000 feet, and this was done twice. The first time that it was published in a Standard, public had 15 days to submit written comments, whether they objected or they wanted to modify the proposal. I received some phone calls, but no objections. And this public hearing was also posted on a state's website. So there's a lot of notification.
So it was posted electronically.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And I submitted the application to the Western Weber Planning Commission and to the APA Advisory Board. And the recommendation is for approval. By state code today, you can approve, you can modify, and approve or reject the proposal. The applicant, Karen Sinone, is here. And so do you have any questions of us, of me?
Point of information, I believe, is it Sinone or Sinoni?
It's Sinone.
I'm sorry, I knew it of someone by the name of Ab
Yes.
Sinoni, but he went by Sinoni with the
No,
same
he went
spelling.
by Sinone.
Is that right?
I was married to him for 22 years.
I thought I read it to you. And my memory, I'm sorry, but my memory serves me incorrectly because he was my dad's buddy back in high school. I knew that name. He was a great man.
He was, and I miss him.
Yeah. Would you like the opportunity to speak, Karen? Carmen? Well, I got Sinoni and Sinone wrong. I might as well continue with the good record.
Can't
Sorry.
fix him.
It's okay, Commissioner. Actually, if I had a cowboy hat on, you'd recognize me.
I would.
We
I would have from right there.
we
too.
worked
I do-
together for a long
I
time.
do remember that too, Carmen. Thank you.
Commissioner Gibson, Commissioner Harvey,
thank you for entertaining this, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I just want to thank Fatima for all of her hard work, helping walk me through this. This property has been in my family since 1865, and to maintain our lifestyle and want to continue to do so. So I'm asking for your approval, and thank you.
Carmen, thank you. To speak publicly about this. Recognizing that none from the public is here to speak about it, then
I'll make a motion to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene the public meeting.
that's exactly what I was going to ask. Thank you. I'll second that motion first, or the motion by Commissioner Gibson, and that's seconded. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So the action to now convene back into a public meeting, we're there now. And so, based on what we've learned in our public hearing, if there's no more discussion, I'd entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the APA as presented, and speak to it if after a second. If you want a second.
I will second it.
Okay. I could have spoke anytime, I guess, on it, but I just want to, I think it's always an opportunity for me to talk a little bit about the value of this statute whenever we do these. And I think the sad part is that we haven't had very many of these in my nearly 7 years here on the commission. I think this is the second one or third.
We have several.
Well, but the new ones that have been applied for during the period that I've been here. I was instrumental in trying to get this type of a statute passed years ago, and I just think it's a very valuable tool because we look at the value of agriculture in our community, and very few people really understand the numbers and the economic driver that it truly is. In Weber County, directly over $350 million a year, plus a multiplier effect that can be debated. It's at least with the multiplier over $1 billion, and we and that's just the numbers. That doesn't count the things that you can't really put your finger on: the lifestyle, the history, the feel of a community, the fabric of a community, and what it is and what it becomes. And I have people ask me all the time, how can I help? How can I help your farm to stay active and to stay in business? And frankly, one of the scariest words out of anyone's mouth, even from county government, is, "Well, let us protect you." That scares me, frankly, because a lot of times that comes with some kind of a property right infringement that really worries us. And I've said for many, many years, the best way that we can support and maintain a thriving agricultural community, in our neighborhood, in our county, is to understand, just like any other business, that they need to make money in order to survive, to limit the incessant and the desire, I think, that's out there to regulate everything, and to just offer some reasonable protection. And when I say protection, when you say agriculture protection area, it's not that they're doing anything. They're not saying you have to use it for this purpose. They're just saying, in order for you to maintain a thriving agricultural operation as it is operating today, we're going to allow you some protection from certain things. In this case, some maybe nuisance complaints, as Fatima mentioned, things like that. And it's really valuable because the property owner, frankly, doesn't. It's a win-win because they can come out of this when they need to. It doesn't take away their property right. They can come out of it. They can do what they feel like is the highest and best use with their property. But I think it's really, really valuable because the best way to keep someone in agriculture is not to force them to stay in agriculture. It's to make it so that they can make a living and so that they feel welcome in a community and so that they can understand it. Again, I've said this before and I'll say it again, but you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You have to use, in every opportunity that we have to use encouragement and some kind of gentle persuasion. But when we force certain behavior, we generally don't get the behavior that we are trying to force in the first place, because people resent it and they hate it. And when it comes right down to it, most of these farms could be sold for more money than the property owner has made for generations farming it. And yet they're there for a reason. And if we just help them to be successful, they can be successful. And so I just think it's something that we need to remember and keep in mind. And that is that one of the statute says that we shall approve, so we don't really have a choice there. We can modify if there's something that we think is inappropriate, but we will approve according to the statute, we will approve the application in some fashion. But one of the concerns that I have is that we don't seem to see a lot of these happening anymore. There's a couple reasons for that. The biggest one is that I think a lot of our major agricultural operations entered into this type of a APA years ago, and they run out in 20 years. And so we're going to see some more of them come back for renewal over the next little while. And when they do, we'll have similar discussions. But the other reason is because, first of all, people don't understand exactly the benefits to it, so we need to educate a little bit that way. But the other thing is that since they came into existence, when we do have the right to set fees, and originally the fees were pretty cheap. Nowadays, within, I don't know, maybe about 10 years ago, the fees were changed, fee schedule was changed. It's quite expensive nowadays. And I was noticing on this particular application, I think there's 3 parcel numbers involved, but you can imagine on a farm, on a real active farm, where you have, in this area, because of the way that irrigation systems are set up, you have small parcels, and you might have a lot of 3 and 4 acre parcels. A lot of farmers aren't able to afford it. And I know that there is a tremendous amount of effort and diligence that goes into processing these from a county perspective. It takes a ton of time and a ton of effort. But I do believe that at some point we ought to, this is one of those things that every active agricultural operation ought to be looking at some point in their operation if they want to continue to be in agriculture. And we need to look at how we can help them to understand the benefits of it and not make it cost prohibitive when you have a whole bunch of different little parcels that can be pretty tough. So at some point in time, I'd like to talk about how we might be able to streamline that a little bit. And Fatima, I am so grateful for the work that you do on this. I know when my family entered into this in, I think it was 2001 or something like that, my dad, it was a monster project. It was a monster thing, and it literally took Fatima hundreds of hours, I would think, probably in the end, to put that all together, because there was multiple property owners together in one application, and it was really, really tough. But in the process, in that one application, there was over 3,000 acres together that was protected under this statute, and that is one of the real reasons why our operation is still functioning today, because from time to time you do have those circumstances where the public really doesn't understand, and they may think for a minute that you're baling hay at night just because you want to keep them up all night, or that the flies actually, you have a lot more control than you do about whether or not flies like animals. And so those are some real challenges. So anyway, I love the process here. I love what the legislation ended up doing and accomplishing in our state, And I love the fact that we're seeing a little bit of a renewed and revitalized interest in this. The fact that we have 3 now coming in over the last little while is a positive thing for me. So that's all. Anything else you want to add?
No, it's awesome. You've already talked about Fatima's work, and I would second or let my voice be a second on that, Fatima. Thank you. And Carmen, I just have this feeling of appreciation for you, for not necessarily pioneering, but remembering the pioneering by doing what you've done.
Thank you. It's a lifestyle. I'm 4th generation. As I said, my family actually got it on certificate, land certificate, and homesteaded there in 1865, and it's just part of my heritage.
That's wonderful.
And I have, my daughter will be 5th, and my grandchildren will be 6th, I'm hoping, so.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
With that, then I'll call for a vote. Commissioner Gibson?
Aye.
And I will second that. Thank you. It carries, passes. Now's the time for public comments on any other agenda items. Quinn, anything you want to say today? Just thought I'd personally call you out. Then I'll entertain a motion for item number I.
I'll move that we adjourn.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you.